Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Ted Dixon, CEO and co-founder of IncResearch.ca, Canada's first online financial news and research service providing insider news and knowledge to investors. His website, CanadianInsider.com, home of the Canadian Insider Club. Welcome back to the show, Ted.
Jim, thanks for having me back, and thanks for everyone listening in.
Ted, what was the message you got from the just-released federal budget in Canada?
The message is big government is here to stay, at least for the next few years, whether we like it or not. That's the cards that we're being dealt as investors. And according to the CTV, it's $101.4 billion in new federal spending. So, it's kind of mind-numbing at this point because we've kind of been, I'll speak for myself. I've kind of been desensitized to all the money that Ottawa is throwing at the pandemic. It'd be nice if they actually got on top of the pandemic, but we talked about that last week. Instead, they're throwing money at keeping the economy afloat and pumping it up as we move through the vaccine rollout. Let's put it that way. And same in the United States. It's everybody's doing it, Jim. Every government is pumping and pumping. So we're living in a big government world. And, if it were just Canada doing it, you might go, oh, Canada, we're going down to a road of ruin. Well, we may be going down to a road of ruin, but we'll have plenty of company along the way, because this is just the new normal, the G economy normal. It's the G economy. We've talked about that now for over a year on this show. Here it is. That's how we're investing. We're investing in a big government economy, and that's how you have to approach your investing style. I think going forward, looking what sectors and industries are in favor and avoid those that are not.
And of course, so who's amongst the winners in this federal budget?
Well, aside from the childcare industry, which once again has been promised loads of money. We'll see if it actually arrives this time. But for investable ideas, it was nice to see the rare earth elements industry getting some attention. And why I say that, first of all, is that I believe we are in a market environment of narratives. Part of this is being driven by the new investor, the retail investor, but they're also the sort of millennials coming in, and they're investing a little differently than I would have done at their age, or entering in. Maybe looking at fundamentals more, or now it's narratives. Okay, so that's not the only thing driving the market, but that's a big part of what's shaping big moves in the market. Tesla, in crypto, Dogecoin. These are all narrative type movements. So it's easy to dismiss them as being a bubble or this or that, but the fact of the matter is, this is a reality that new investors coming into the market are a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them are being driven by narratives. So some of these narratives have more staying power than others. Okay, so the GameStop narrative, it had a few months, but there are going to be, I think, other narratives. The Tesla narrative has been going on for years, and many, many value investors who were short of the stock have been basically destroyed by betting against that narrative. So we have to be very cognizant of narratives. And there is an opportunity here for the mining industry to build a positive narrative for the rare earth element and battery metals area. And in the budget there was this is off of a press release, by the way, that was sent out by the Mining Association of Canada, and we heard from them that there's $36.8 million of money being allocated to a R&D initiative to advance critical battery mineral processing and refining expertise. Now, although it's a modest investment, it's better than nothing. And I'm from the old school. I think you can still do a lot with $36.8 million. You may not be able to buy a lot of homes in Vancouver with that, but you can actually do a lot of things in the real economy with that. So, that's important because we're good at mining in Canada. We also are good at processing, but we have to be on the leading edge of that. And why it's so important that we don't just mine the materials, but that we have the processing capability for our mining companies to send their commodities to, correct? So we need both, the primary and the secondary parts of that process. So it's really good to see this, and a narrative could shape up, and the mining industry has a chance to seize that, but it has to buy into. Now, I'm sorry for people who don't like this, but we're talking about narratives, and if you accept the premise that narratives are important, then one cannot escape the narrative about reducing emissions, and I'll come to that in a second. But the mining industry, if they can build on the momentum they have in the budget with the rare earth elements, along with net zero mining, that meaning you work and you pledge to develop mining processes that do net zero carbon emissions over a certain period, you could develop a strong narrative that could really take hold in the market. It's not there yet. It's at its early stages. Now, I've got some positions in some junior mining companies in this area, so I'm hopeful it happens, but it hasn't happened yet, and it may not. It really depends on we really need, I think, some leadership to emerge in the mining industry, just as as we've seen how successful Elon Musk is building his narratives, okay? You may not like him, you may disagree with him, but he's been very successful. And in investing, success is what you're after, right? So hopefully there'll be a narrative that grabs hold in the mining industry around the seeds that have been planted in the federal budget. Heaven knows there's been so much thrown around in that budget. But you take what the cards that you've been dealt, and the mining industry's been given something here that they can run with. Let's see if they do. Let's hope that they do. And it could be an exciting time. And the other aspect of this is we know, Jim, that the Biden administration has been talking to the Canadian government about coordinating efforts in this area because the U.S. has recognized that China is the main player in this area. They're looking to diversify. So this is a long-term narrative that can develop. Not 6 months, not 3 months. This is not a GameStop narrative. This is a Tesla-type narrative that can develop. So let's hope that we run with it in Canada, that we don't shy away from it, that we have some good promoters in the mining industry. Let's hope they focus in the area where the wind, I believe, will be at their back. And that, I believe, is in the rare earth elements area.
Can we expect low interest rates to continue?
No. Well, let me rephrase that by saying not forever. And yes, we can expect the short-term rates to stay low for another 12 months. And that the longer the Fed and the Bank of Canada keep rates at zero, the more unstable things become. When I mean unstable, I mean volatile. Let's say volatile as an investor. Unstable has I think too broad of a connotation, but volatile. Where you're just going to see big gap ups and gap downs in asset prices in this corner of the market, that corner of the market. The more that they suppress real market forces, the more volatility there is going to be. So, the Bank of Canada today, I haven't been able to read everything, but from what I basically have read from Forex Live, is that the Bank of Canada is dropping basically some hints that it's going to have to raise rates if things keep going the way they are by 2022. So this is going to support the Canadian dollar. I would discourage people from getting too caught up in negative Canadian dollar narratives. about the debt and the government mishandling COVID and mismanaging the deficit, la-di-da. Yes, I think that's fair criticism on all fronts. But guess what? Everybody's doing it. It's again like all these governments are doing it. It's just a question of which government messes up the most on the deficit or blows up their deficit the most. So Canada right now, it's in, unlike the vaccine rollout, we're in the middle of the pack on deficit spending. Hopefully on the vaccine rollout we'll get a little closer to the middle of the pack. And but right now we're still, of course, dragging our feet. So on government spending, though, we're right up there with the best, but we have a lot of competition there, including the United States. So so long as the U.S. is doing this, I wouldn't get too bearish on the Canadian dollar here. I mean, I'm not bullish on it, but I'm not bearish on it either. It's going to do what it's going to do. We've got high commodity prices. Basically, we've got an economy that's doing relatively well. Given everything that's been thrown at it from the COVID-19 front. So now don't get too down on the Canadian dollar, and but let's not get too comfortable with low interest rates because they're here for a good time, but not a long time, Jim.
We'll have more with Ted Dixon right after this.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aben's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at abenresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ted Dixon. Ted, is the federal government's bailout of Air Canada a good deal for taxpayers?
Jim, the Air Canada bailout was a great deal for the Trudeau government, who basically got kudos from some of the mainstream media for such a savvy deal to protect Air Canada jobs, and it's also a very good deal for the insiders who didn't have to give up their stock options to get all this support. But for existing shareholders in Air Canada and the taxpayers, it was a lousy deal. And we actually wrote about this on April 16th. We wrote about it, of course, to our members, but we also put it on Canadian Insider for free. You can go and look up, you can go to Canadian Insider on Ink Ultra Money. Look for the April 16th Ink Ultra Money video morning report preview that I did, and if you click on the paperclip in the player navbar, you can download a free copy of the morning report. But basically, look, the mainstream media was all this is a great deal. Michael Sabia, who used to run the Caisse de depot, he's seen as some sort of a maestro now, as having done this deal and look, air travelers are even getting refunds, so maybe they're a winner as well. And they've actually did a special lending facility to facilitate these refunds. A 1.4 the Canadian taxpayer, yes, the Canadian taxpayer, the frontline worker, who gets minimum wage, they're backstopping the $1.4 billion, what we call the non-recourse, non-refundable ticket refund lending facility, or NRTRLF. Okay, yeah, this is Michael Sabia at work, concocting all these schemes to help corporate Canada out, and this is the world we live in. Welcome again to the G economy. Now, the taxpayer has loaded up on Air Canada shares at $23.17.93. And guess where the stock traded today, Jim? It traded between $22.70 and $23.85. So this much, I read on the CBC website that this was going to be they implied this was going to be a much better deal than the Harper government cut General Motors. Well, we will see about that. I think it's a bit too early for CBC and anyone else to be doing a victory lap on this Air Canada deal. Last time I checked, there was still some risks that Air Canada faced. Things like, competition, higher oil prices, maybe another pandemic, you know, like, so this is a risky deal, and it didn't deserve the kudos that it got. It's a bad deal. It's a bad deal for shareholders, and it's a horrible deal for taxpayers. It's a lousy deal, okay? But if you hold stock options and you work at the company, you probably think it's an okay deal. So, and if you're Justin Trudeau and you're Michael Sabia, you know, and you're if you're, you know, working in the federal government in the policy area, you're probably happy with the reviews you got initially from this deal because they were pretty glowing. So I commend them for that. It was it was a political deal where they took the taxpayers backstopping, and they, you know, managed to support a lot of different vested interests in this. Airplane manufacturers got something. As I mentioned, the ticket holders got something. So, you know, it was a political deal, and we will see how it turns out. But we give it a thumbs down, and you can read our report, and we will see how it turns out. Now, I hope it does turn out okay. I hope we're wrong, because we're all shareholders now, right, in Air Canada. So, I mean, I could have gone out and bought that stock if I had wanted to. A couple of weeks ago, I did not want to. But now I have a stake in that company's success. So, however, that being said, you know, I do feel sorry for WestJet because they are the competition. And why should this company be getting all this government Air Canada be getting all this support? You know, this is zombie nation stuff, zombie corporate nation stuff, right? Where you favor one company over another, right, with government handouts, right? So it's bad policy too. So no, it's a terrible deal, except for those who, you know, who are better off with it. And, there we go, you know, so, we'll see how it works out. Let's hope for all of us that I'm wrong on, you know, our outlook is only for 12 to 18 months. So, you know, there's this deal Air Canada warrants that the taxpayer has, I believe, are 10 years. So there is some scope for the taxpayer to recoup, get a return. But we will see.
So if you like impersonal, rude service, and I just had an uncle who 2 years ago, before the pandemic, completed a worldwide tour to celebrate his 80th birthday. And he said out of the 23 airlines he flew, Air Canada definitely was the worst, and he would never book them again. We'll have more with Ted Dixon right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ted Dixon. Ted, is there something you should avoid when you're looking to invest?
Well, one of the combinations that we always are on the watch for is the combination of insider selling while the company is buying back its own shares. Now, we've heard for years how great it is for companies to buy back their own shares. I mean, this is you hear this on business television all the time, and you always have some hedge fund manager who's up there, you know, saying the company's got to buy back its shares, Okay, so fair enough. Buying back shares is one way to provide capital, return of capital to shareholders. Fine. But at what price do you buy the shares back? Do you buy the shares back when the company share price is trading at all-time highs? Or do you wait, you know, for the market to underprice those shares and say, you know, this is, you know, our stock is so undervalued that we should be buying back our shares? Okay. Now, one would hope that those kinds of calculations are undertaken by a board of directors in general before they do a share buyback. But in the age of passive investing, which is where these index funds, like the S&P 500 index funds, and there's index funds in Canada, just buy shares based off of the size of the company and nothing else. They're blind to everything else. The calculus or the calculations behind a company's decision to buy back shares have changed dramatically. And because these index funds, they don't really care about governance decisions in companies. All these index funds care about are the company size. So what we don't like to see is a company buying back its shares when insiders are selling, because that is sending what we believe are conflicting signals. Because if the share price is good enough, low enough for the company to buy back, then why are insiders selling that at the same level? So you've got one group of corporate actors saying, this is a good level to take profits, but you've got another on the same, in the same corporate song sheet, you've got, no, this is actually a good time for us to purchase our shares. So there's what we would call mixed signals there, and those are situations we like to avoid. And we did a post on our website again for free on April 20th, our morning report video called President Selling, and it also has a free copy of the morning report where you can get more about why we avoid those situations. And right now, it seems that the grocery store industry it's a very popular combination right now, where we see insider selling and shares to buy back. So as such, that's not a group of companies that we generally would be looking at right now. We think there's more attractive opportunities in the market. And look, sometimes you get combinations where you've got the company buying back shares and the insiders are buying. We're much more excited about those situations. So, when if you're investing, and if you like buybacks, as part of your investing strategy, that's fine. But, see which way the insiders are going and see if they're confirming that now is a good time for the company to buy back shares. I mean, we won't even talk about what companies bought back shares before the pandemic and then had to get bailed out. We won't go there today. But there's a time and a place maybe to buy back your shares, and I would suggest that you want to at least see the insiders buying along at the same time that the company's buying back its shares.
I'm sorry you didn't want to talk about that, because I was going to say, if you could afford to buy back your own shares, why do you need government bailout money? Which means you want to take money from my pocket because you are too stupid to save for a rainy day.
Well, Jim, is that, I don't know. I mean, greed, perhaps, but greed isn't new to the capital markets. And if you make the calculation that, if we get into trouble, the government's going to come and bail us out because we're too big to fail, then in some sense, it's rational for some of these actors to push the envelope and to push the greed button. So again, it comes back to government coming to the plate when maybe they shouldn't. And in our view, they should not have come to the plate for Air Canada, but that's our personal view. And we'll see how it all works out, and we'll see what kind of behavior that reinforces. Like you talked earlier about customer service. Well, what is the incentive for Air Canada to do great customer service on its own? I mean, they wouldn't. They gave these ticket refunds after the government came and backstopped it with their lending facility, right? So this isn't going to move the dial in terms of better travel experience, right, for Canadians. So if you've got a government that's willing there to send a signal that if you're big, you're gonna get bailed out by us if you run into problems. You're just asking for trouble down the road. So we will see how this Air Canada situation plays out over the next few years. And in the meantime, Jim, I like to think about the optimistic opportunities that are out there, and I do give the government credit for giving some focus to the rare earth elements and the battery metals area. We'll be looking for companies that see insider buying in those areas, and but I think the narrative's got to grab hold, and we got to see some narrative momentum in that. So let's hope that all comes together, because I think Canada can be a leader in that space, for the government providing research and development money is a lot different, Jim, than providing a bailout.
Ted, do you have any idea how long the lockdowns will last and how long it'll take for the economy to recover?
Well, look, I just look at Texas. There's no lockdown. Concerts are going on. Texas did a terrible job managing the pandemic until the vaccines came along. They now have, I'm not a medical expert, obviously. I didn't go to medical school. I didn't even take much biology in high school, okay? So with that disclaimer, I believe they've got over half their population with at least one dose of the vaccine, plus they had a high positivity rate of the virus to begin with. I think they're pretty close to herd immunity. We are not close to herd immunity in Canada because, as everyone knows, the vaccine roll has been slow. Now we're getting, again, corners of the media that are trying to point fingers at the provinces, right? And I'm not here to defend any province, except the Atlantic province, who, by the way, are the shining lights in this country right now, and I think deserve a lot of credit, and we should be looking at how they got things right, just as we need to be looking at how Ottawa and some of these other provinces got things so wrong. And right now, let's hope that, we keep hearing promises about when these vaccines are showing up, and, I don't know. I don't know when they're going to show up. I mean, apparently we're getting some next month. It's always next month, right? Moderna's canceled this one, but don't worry. Next month we're getting more Pfizer. What? Okay, I'll believe it, Jim. When I get a shot in my arm, I'll believe that. Okay, and so, some people have got it, but we're about. I'm not sure the latest figures. I think in BC we're approaching 25%. So, we got a couple of more months to go, Jim, before we're at near herd immunity, before we're catching up to Texas. So, I hope we're there for the summer, where we can start relaxing things and we can start opening up events. And, it'd be nice to see the PNE as a kind of a benchmark, for activity. It would be nice to see if they could open up in August, right? If we were in Texas, the for those who are not from BC, that's Pacific National Exhibition. It's a big outdoor exhibition at the end of the summer. If we were in Texas, that would be open. But we're not in Texas. We're in British Columbia, where we left, Whistler open during the P1 variant wave, and now Whistler's closed. So, let's hope that Whistler gets open again soon and the PNE's open. But we need vaccines, and we need the federal government to take a more serious approach at the border. And yes, the provinces, they can be blamed, but the war was lost at the borders. The war was lost by Ottawa, and the reinforcements at the provincial level in many provinces just weren't up to the task. So it's been an all-round failure, ex-Atlantic, for Canadians, and there's no sense of finger-pointing, province or federal government. It's pretty clear who lost it first. It was Ottawa, and then who dropped the ball second. It was many of these provinces. But, we will get there. We will get there. We will get our vaccines eventually, and we will get to herd immunity. Unfortunately, it's going to be 6 months, probably, at least, after the United States. And, we're all paying the price for federal government incompetence right now, and that's just the price we have to pay.
Kudos to Manitoba and North Dakota. North Dakota, for free, is vaccinating truck drivers from Manitoba who cross the border, some 4,000.
Well, and this is the type of thinking we really needed throughout the pandemic, and it needed to start at the federal level. And I'm sorry for all these columnists and pundits who are pointing their fingers at one provincial premier who deserves criticism, okay? Leadership starts at the top. And in January 2020, Justin Trudeau was 100% focused on getting a seat at the UN Security Council. By January 30th, we knew there was a coronavirus roaming the world. By January 30th, 2020, custom agents at the Canadian border did not even have a list of countries that had the coronavirus. So it was a failure at the federal level, basically from day one, that got us into this mess. And then it became juggling acts at the provincial level, and it is what what we're faced with now. Atlantic provinces got their act together. Most other provinces, they tried different approaches, and now we are facing a crisis with variants of concern, which again, these variants of concern came in via the border. And I'm tired, and I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, "Oh, but it's only 1 or 2% of transmissions are due to travelers." Hello, that's why it's called a virus, right? It spreads. All it takes is one person, right? And that person with the P1 variant came in via a federal airport, likely. It might have been a land crossing, you don't know, but it was still a point of entry. So, this has been an abject failure by the federal government, and now we're paying the price. We're paying the price because we have to wait on herd immunity. The U.S. has leapfrogged ahead of us, which is terrible from a Canadian perspective. I'm not proud of that. I'm saddened by that, and it's costing us billions of dollars. So let's hold all our politicians to account, and including the ones that got it right. Like, I think we need to showcase what the Atlantic provinces got right in all of this. Like, the Atlantic provinces are always, not always, but generally there's this thing about, the Atlantic provinces, they're kind of I don't mean to, and I'm careful what I say here, but, in central Canada and western Canada, Atlantic provinces aren't usually top of mind, right? Let's just put it that way. Well, they should be top of mind now because they got it right, right? And we can learn lessons. The rest of Canada can learn lessons from Atlantic Canada. So let's hear from them. Let's hear from the premiers of and the politicians in Atlantic Canada how they got it right. I want to hear it. I want to hear their stories, right? I want to hear how they got it right. And I think it's great. I think it's a success story. And we'll take the best what we can get out of this pandemic, Jim. And, it has accelerated investing trends. It has accelerated narratives, as we talked about. Again, it's good that we've got the federal government on the same page as Washington on these battery metals, and we've got obviously a big focus on emissions reductions. That's where the opportunities are going to be. We got to focus on that while we wait for Canada to get to herd immunity levels and to catch up with our biggest trading partner.
It seems to me the Prime Minister and his cabinet have not watched any vampire movies, because once you invite a vampire in, bad things happen, and I consider the virus to be a vampire.
Jim, I think that is an excellent analogy. I can just, picture these flights coming in from all over with, COVID vampires on, and us, just waving them through in the early days of the pandemic, and having our health minister say, well, vampires don't know borders. There's nothing we can do. Can you imagine if Patty Hajdu had been the health minister in Taiwan or in Australia? What shape they would be in right now?
Or
right?
New Zealand?
Or
New Zealand?
Or New Zealand. No, unfortunately, we're the lucky winners of having her as health minister. But we don't hear calls from the mainstream media for her to resign. I haven't. And so it really is mind-numbing to sometimes see the reaction of the indignation that we hear being thrown at provincial governments, and yet the federal government is just sort of like, oh well, they couldn't have done anything, which is just not the case. They should have secured our points of entry. There are 119 points of entry in this country, ground entries. It's not that hard. I mean, that's not that many, right? I said, there are more 7-Eleven outlets in Canada, right, than there are border entries. I'm making that up. I don't know, but there's certainly I'm sure there's more Max Milk and Couche-Tard outlets than there are border entries. So this should have been managed much better, and it wasn't. And
if this was World War II, there would have been welcome mats out for the Imperial Japanese Navy and the Nazi U-boat forces. No doubt about it. Because, hey, that's international trade, isn't it?
That's right. Well, and there's nothing you can do, right? If your enemy wants to come and attack you, what can you do? It's war is war, right? We can't stop those bombers from flying over us, right? So it was a pathetic initial response out of the gate, and Ottawa was always behind the curve. They brought in this hotel quarantine way too late, and it still got and it still got holes in it. I mean, there's exemptions. There's people apparently can just skip it and wait for a bill to come in the mail, a fine to come in the mail if it ever comes. And, you may not agree with those measures or you may not, but if you're going to have them, do it properly. Like, don't do these half measures, because then you've got, you're coming in from Europe on a plane and okay, sir, you're going to have to go into this hotel quarantine unless, of course, you don't want to go and pay the fine, then you don't have to go, or unless you're on my list here of exempt people who don't have to go, right? Like, hello? Like, that's not how you run an effective hotel quarantine. See how they did it in Australia, right? They got it right in Australia. So do it right or don't do it at all. And so, that's one of the lessons I hope that we learn from this pandemic in Canada. From now on, let's do it right or don't do it, right? Let's get the rare earth minerals right, right? Let's be a leader in that area. Let's build on our strengths and really get things right that we have to get right. And, so I'm looking forward to building on our mining expertise, Jim. We get that right. We don't need that much help from government, but we certainly need to have the research there to ensure that we are a leader in technologies and processing that can take on China and that can instill confidence to the United States and Americans that we're a strong partner with them. It's all about strength, Jim, and it's not about, getting on TV and reciting a few talking points. It's about action, it's about results, and it's about showing the world that you can do what you set out to do. We didn't do that with COVID-19. It was a disaster in Canada. It's been a disaster. But let's pick the ball up. Let's at least get something right in the rare earth minerals area. Let's be a leader in that. And, then we can make something, and, it'd be one part of building up, out of this pandemic. There are other areas, of course. It's not the only area, but, in terms of, British Columbia and, the mining industry, there's a big opening here. So let's go for that.
Ted, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Well, thanks for having me back, Jim. And, you just, as long as we're, down in these, quasi-lockdowns and mini-lockdowns, there's always an opportunity to blow off some steam here at HowStreet.com, and I thank all the listeners for who may not all agree with me, but listening to our point of view. And let's keep our eyes all focused on where the investing opportunities are throughout this whole mess. Thanks again, Ted. Take care. My guest has been Ted Dixon, CEO and co-founder of IncResearch.ca. His website, CanadianInsider.com. If you have any questions for Ted or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.